Hi, welcome to the podcast episode about amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. My name is Svitlana, and I am a student at Bard College. This semester, I took a class on ALS, and the purpose of this episode is to raise awareness about ALS, get some more insight into this disease, and also explore ALS through the lens of someone who has walked this path with their family member. I'm joined today by a guest. Morgan, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story. Could you please just introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you. My name is Morgan Geniviva. I lost my dad to ALS in 2018 after he was living with the disease for several years, um, first being diagnosed in 2015. Um, yeah.
Thank you. And could you please maybe tell a little more about what amyotrophic lateral sclerosis is? Because I think I even heard about it before, but I didn't know that much details before I took the class.
Yeah, of course. ALS is a progressive neurodegenerative disease. Basically, it affects both your upper and lower motor neurons. It affects, voluntary muscle movements, like something simple as picking something up, holding a pencil. Then also affects your involuntary muscle movements. So things like breathing and swallowing can be affected. ALS is a 100% fatal disease because there's still no cure. There's a lot of great researchers working on this. And the life expectancy is 2 to 5 years after diagnosis.
And I also recall from some of the classes that in the US, there are around 30,000 recorded cases of this disease. So it's, and not that many people know about it, unfortunately.
Mhm.
So it's been hard to diagnose. But this is my next question. And you said that your father had ALS, and so could you please share a little more about how did your family learn about the diagnosis, and overall, what was the initial reaction?
Mhm. So I was actually in college when my dad was diagnosed. Um, Him and my mom had come to pick me up for Christmas break my sophomore year. Um, I remember this day so vividly because there was a botanical garden on campus that we would always go to. And they had, the holiday uh, show set up. Um, we were walking around from room to room, and, my dad was stopping a lot, needing to, take a break, sit on a bench for a little bit. So, like, I knew something was off, but, wasn't sure if I should say something or what. Um, and then later that day, my dad sat me down and told me that he'd been diagnosed with ALS. Um, and honestly, like at first, I didn't even react just because it was so shocking. I had heard of ALS, like you said, you hear of it in passing. Um, so I think it took a little bit of time to kind of process and come to terms with. Um, yeah, it's definitely not something that you can prepare yourself for.
Definitely, I can only imagine. But do you have an idea of how long approximately it took to diagnose the ALS?
Um, I want to say it took about a year for him to get diagnosed. So like you said, it is difficult because it does present differently in different people, and there's also no exact or diagnostic test that you can do. So it's really a matter of ruling out other um, neuro diseases. Um, but little things like that. So his doctors thought maybe, he had a slipped disc. He actually had surgery, which is also really common during the diagnosis process for um, people to go through unnecessary surgeries because of a diagnosis. Um, but eventually, he got in front of someone who noticed the symptoms, said, this might be ALS, and was able to get him in contact with, a neurologist that could help with the diagnosis.
Um, and how did ALS affect, your father's day-to-day life as well as yours and your family, and how did you adapt to those changes?
So yeah, it's kind of a blessing, kind of not where, it was right when my dad retired when he was diagnosed. So fortunately, he didn't have to, make that difficult decision that a lot of people need to make of whether they can continue to work. Um, but my dad's progression was slow. So, we were kind of able to take things one day at a time. Uh, but, he started needing help to do everyday tasks, things like getting out of bed, getting dressed, eating. Um, so, you know, again, there's no way to prepare yourself for that. So it's just something that, you kind of have to figure it out as you go. Um, but there's also, a lot of really great communities out there of people living with ALS, taking care of someone with ALS. Um, that have really come together so that, everyone people can share, their experiences, tips and tricks, different like home modifications that have been beneficial for them to, maintain some independence. Um, that I think really make a difference.
Thank you. And this actually leads me to my next question about these specific ALS organizations or communities. How did you find out about them? How did you get engaged? Because this is actually how we got to know each other through the I AM ALS organization and the panel that Morgan was moderating for us, for students. And I was just wondering if you have any advice for people who are looking for this support, or if you could share just the names of those organizations and communities so that people could get support.
Yeah, so I am ALS actually wasn't around when my dad was living with ALS, um, but they have been a great support system for me since my dad's passing. There's so many different communities within that organization working on, community outreach, things like our educational panels where we meet with students, educate them more on, um, you know, the experiences of people living with ALS. They're also a great resource because they do have social workers where, you can, if you've been newly diagnosed, you can reach out to them and they might be able to work with you and say, there's this group in your area that could help you getting different, uh, maybe like technologies that can assist you, or getting you in contact with a clinic by you where you can go for getting support. Um, and then more locally, so we were in Pittsburgh when my dad was kind of going through this journey, and we got really involved with the Western PA ALS Association. Um, we were really fortunate because they're like, I might be biased, but I think they're one of the best chapters in the country, with, you know, the money that they raise, the support that they provide. We have a really great multidisciplinary clinic um, in Pittsburgh. And then we also got involved with Live Like Lou, because their mission was very much in line with, what my dad thought was most important, which was, raising money for research and also supporting families of someone with ALS. So I think my dad got in contact with them because they fund a lot of research at the University of Pittsburgh. So they, hold different fundraising events that we were able to go to and, meet the people that are doing this work. Um, that just, is a nice way to feel optimistic about the future of the disease.
Thank you. I will put the links to those organizations and to the websites in the description of the podcast so you can check them out. Um, Thank you for sharing. And I was just wondering if maybe you have any specific or special memories or moments of resilience from your father that stood out to you during his journey with ALS.
Yeah, so I think, my dad, growing up, like my dad was always such a strong guy. So like seeing that continue after his diagnosis, but kind of in a different way, was really great. Because knew that a cure wasn't coming in his lifetime, but that didn't stop him from, putting the work in. Um, we would work, I would transcribe for him. We would, send emails to everyone he knew to, raise money for the ALS Association. He would meet with drug companies that were working to develop treatments to um, kind of educate them on the importance of including patients in the process of drug development and, clinical trial design. Um, so, seeing the work that he put in with how much it took out of him and that I was able to kind of like be a part of that was really special. But my dad also continued to, like, he didn't let ALS slow him down. He continued to do the things he loved. We um, would still go fishing. We would still go out on the boat, go out to dinner. Um, so like, those moments looked a little different, but they were still, us being able to do the things that we love together.
This is wonderful and very powerful and inspiring, and it requires this inner strength to keep going and, have this routine. This is something I also realized from different panels and from the classes we had this semester and reading the book. Also, I don't know if you read the Tuesdays with Maury,
Mhm.
but I was laughing, I was crying, a lot of crying. Yeah, there were a lot of tears, and our professor, even in the beginning of the class, said that it might be very hard mentally and emotionally to go through this semester. And throughout I realized why he made this note, because it's actually really inspiring, but also just hard to see people who are like full of um life, and they want to do so many wonderful things, um, go through such experiences. But what I realized is keeping this routine, knowing that, oh, on Tuesdays we are doing this, on Saturdays we are going there, on Wednesdays I'm meeting with this specific person. It just, I believe it's very helpful. So thank you. And is there any message, or maybe some words or story that you would like to share with others who might be going through a similar journey?
Mhm. Um, yeah, I think my biggest advice would be, to try and find a community. I know it can be really difficult, when you're dealing with a new diagnosis and there's so much information coming at you, and, the disease progresses so quickly, um, that I think, sometimes people, it doesn't even cross their mind to look for something like that. Like, I know I've met a lot of people through AM ALS who say, I wish we had found this group earlier. Because I think being, whether it be something like AM ALS or, a local support group, um, it can just take so much off of you because, you can ask those questions, what do you wish you knew the day that you came home from the hospital on the day of your diagnosis? And it's, something you're able to work through that with people going through what you're going through, and not just, you know, trying to Google these things, going through all of the information that's out there. Um, it's a much more, beneficial experience, I guess.
Yeah, it was very inspiring also, in terms of seeing the community and this support. We watched the series, the Often Awesome um, series about the amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, and they have a lot of also great examples of building this community and organizing different charity events, benefit concerts, fundraising money, but also sharing the challenges that people face. And I think it's a very helpful resource, as to learn from, for people who are going through similar experiences, but also for those who maybe had no idea what ALS is, to just learn and be more sensitive, and just have an idea of what people who were diagnosed with ALS and those around them might be going through. I'll I'll leave all the links to the book and to the series as well in the description. Thank you. But this also basically prompts me to my question about is there anything that you would like people to understand about ALS that they might not know? Or if there are maybe some misconceptions about ALS that you would like to address?
Um, so I think, if you are someone who, maybe has a friend or a family member who's been diagnosed with ALS, I think it can be um, a very confusing time because, you want to support that person, But then, you yourself are also working through these feelings of this new information. Um, but I think, the best thing you can do is, reach out to that person. You know, because I think, the only way you can work through these things are together. So, talking with them, asking them what this diagnosis means for them, um, how you can be there for them. Because I think also um, with a disease like this, um, people forget that, it's causing this deterioration of their body, but, in their mind, they're still all there. So, they're still the same person. And, you know, you can still talk to them about anything. You can like you, I don't know, you want to call them up and talk about what birds you saw that week and just like continuing to show up for them in any small way is like so much more than you think.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you so, so much for sharing your story with us. And it's extremely valuable. And I really appreciate your advocacy a lot and you being involved with the AM ALS organization. It's very beneficial and helpful. And they do a lot of wonderful things and advocacy. And I truly appreciate you taking the time to share your story with others. I'm sure it will be very helpful, and I hope people will get some motivation and learn about new organizations and support groups from this episode. Thank you.
Thank you.